Well, hello everyone and welcome. Telestax is pleased to host our RESCOM 1 Marketplace IQ series where we highlight our partners and the benefits they bring. Today, we're featuring IPitimi and their IPitimi SMS solution. Now, if you haven't enabled SMS within your call or contact center or still on the fence, it's really time to reconsider your priorities. Far too many call centers rely on voice for interacting with their customers, and phone calls just don't preserve the context of that conversation. Messaging does. In fact, moving from voice to text increases call center closure rates by 200%. Now, to walk us through, I'm pleased to introduce IPitimi's CEO, Greg Nielsen, and IPitimi's CTO, Ravi Ventudan. Welcome to you both. Hi, Greg. Hi, Ravi.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Now, just a few housekeeping items for today's live event. All participants are in listen-only mode for the duration of the webinar, but please feel free to chat any questions in the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. This webinar is being recorded, and replays will be available on the Telestax website within about 24 hours following our live broadcast. At this point, I'd like to turn today's conference over to Greg. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for joining us today. There's a remarkable shift in the way that we communicate today, and that's one of the things that we look forward to talking to you about. IPitimi is a unified communications company, and we specialize in all forms of communication. And as we have started to see a dramatic shift in the ways that our customers communicate, we decided that we had to probably change some of the products and tool sets that we were able to offer to them. And so with some ideas, with a couple of customer requests, and with the brains of our genius CTO Ravi here, we've got some different look at the way that SMS can enable a business or a contact center that we look forward to sharing with you. One of the things that as we go through this, it's important to note that while you may not notice the difference or change of SMS, it is remarkably changing the way that others communicate around the world. Here are some quick statistics. The number of monthly texts sent have increased over 7,000% just in the last 10 years. 18.7 billion texts are sent worldwide every day. It's the most used data service in the world. I mean, these things are absolutely astounding when you think about all of the other internet over the top or other forms of communication that we send, including things like email. What that means is that it relates to a different paradigm and a different mindset for the end users, for generational participants in the marketplace, and if you're trying to be up to date for each of you as customers or businesses. One of the things that a lot of us are familiar with is calling into a customer support line, waiting on hold, waiting for the IVR queues, and waiting for somebody else to manage your call interaction. And we all hated those because we were chained to our desk waiting for them to answer, however long their hold times were. That improved a little bit with our mobile phones because we could drive around with whatever, walking someplace and try to get something. But now people are less inclined to sit waiting on the phone, and they want to have quick, short interactions with people, and that's why SMS is becoming so big. Your business might be in any number of fields, but if you consider your specific vertical, whether you have salespeople or not, whether you have support or field technicians, at some point almost all of them are going to send and receive text messages from your clients that if they use their personal device, they're completely lost. And in some cases, they might follow that employee as he goes to another company. However, by taking and harnessing the power of business SMS using your business phone number identity, you can actually harness that data into big data, do some analytics, do some research, and see how your interacting with customers and improve all of that. And it results in some big gains for some of our customers, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We're going to show you some of the innovations that we've done for some SMS for call centers. Obviously, being able to SMS enable your business line or your office line is one thing. It's actually something quite simple to do, and we're happy to talk to any of you about that. One of the powerful features about IPitimi and using us for SMS is that we can SMS enable almost any phone number, even if we are not your phone company. So you can keep it with whoever you're currently with and start adding these overlay services on top of it. That includes your toll-free number. It might include your main business number or just your personal office extension or the extensions of each of your salespeople. Here's some of the use cases for these. Use them for lead generation. Maybe follow up on some promos that you might have that customers have subscribed or opted into. They can be sent as collection and billing reminders. It's very easy to add this automation into your existing legacy billing systems. And we'll show you a little bit later some of our power notifications that will even do database lookups and put in the customer's name. It'll pull in real time the data as how much their balance that's owed and send it to the customer. We can even put in links that they can click on now to pay off that invoice. So there's some significant changes into how this SMS can work. One thing that is also important to note, we all talk about all these applications that are in the marketplace. Oh, you've got an iPhone app, or you've got an Android app, or BlackBerry, whatever it is. What's powerful about SMS is that nobody anywhere needs to download an app at all. It's clientless. It's ubiquitous. You don't even need a smartphone to use the IPitimi SMS as a consumer. Simply send a text message and start interacting with the company or vendor of your choice. I'm going to go through and start into this next one, a review of some of these features. And Ravi, I know this is something that's very close and dear to your heart, and as a technical person, I want you to feel free to please interject as we go through, because there are some specifics that I think that you might like to highlight that we'll ultimately get through in the live demo that we give here in just a moment. I mentioned the person-to-person type interaction that we can have that we're all familiar with our cell phones. That's basically from you to somebody else, or you to maybe a group of people. We've actually put this into reverse and now allows you to send a message to a company, and we take the same logic or similar logic that you might find in an advanced interactive voice response tree or auto attendant, and we'll send in a message, and it can now be distributed to a wide variety of agents or employees, sales groups, support people in that organization based off of their skill set, their availability. We can even route a specific client to specific people so that you have that type of priority in always communicating with them. Some of the skills-based routing we'll get to in a little bit. It can be based off of language. It can be based off of keyword. And we even have it built in such a way that if for some reason an agent becomes unresponsive, or if maybe they're in a particular place or location where they lose their internet connectivity or any other reason, we'll take the entire contextual conversation of that chat and move it to a new agent so that they don't have to start over. You might think of it as more recently the web chat. You go onto a web page, let's just say it might be a big computer vendor or a shopping site, and it'll have a little icon that says, click here to chat with an agent now. Well, in a lot of ways, that's a lot like the old voice response from before. You now have to sit there chained to your desktop, typing away with somebody, waiting for them to respond. If any of you are like me, it's easy to get distracted by an email or a phone call, and then all of a sudden those things time out, and you have to start all over. With the recent eclipse of, kind of a pun I guess with our yesterday's eclipse of the sun, with mobile browsing eclipsing desktop browsing about a year ago, more people are now using their mobile phones to browse and buy consumer products. Going onto those web pages with a click here to chat with a live person don't really work anymore. However, if they're on that web page, they can click to text, and now you see how the powerful draw of what this might be for a call center or as an end user consumer. Some of the other features, autoresponders. For a business owner, you can do the macro built responses so that an agent doesn't have to start over every time. They simply choose from a pick list of available responses, or maybe directing them to the proper area or answer that they're looking for. Built for a call center, you've got certainly an agent responsibilities. We've also added additional layers of supervisory roles. A supervisor, which we'll show you here in a minute, will allow a supervisor to not only view all of the incoming communications, but it allows them to also monitor each of the agents that are assigned to them. If somebody's logged out, they can log the agent back in. They might be able to pull that conversation and push it to somebody else that might be a little bit more skilled. So, how does it work? We have a couple of things that I'm going to go through here quickly. I think that a lot of us will be able to talk about in-depth features in the live demo. We have single sign-on for security. We currently have Google authenticated. Certain businesses have other requirements. Just ask and we'll be able to make sure that we work with you specifically on that. We also have role-based access controls. We have access for some users that might be an administrator. They can build new queues. They can modify or edit the macros that agents will respond to. They can modify schedules or modify auto responses. Others might just be supervisors that give them all of the agent supervisory roles. And then we have others yet that are just agents that can communicate back and forth. Real quick, I'm going to show you what this looks like so that you can see how and what you're going to be seeing in the live demo. Over here on the left, we have various forms of communication. We might have a cell phone user who wants to send in a text message into a queue. You might have somebody on the web chat that I just mentioned before. What this is supposed to indicate or show is that when a user sends a message, it will come into the queue. Based off of availability, it will then be delivered to an agent. If it delivers to the second agent, if that agent is unavailable, it will go on to the third. Based off of auto replies, we have the ability for somebody to maybe send in, what are your hours? And it'll automatically respond back from a restaurant that might say, here are our hours. It could be, I want to make a reservation. What are directions to your site? Or can you send me a copy of your menu? Based off of those auto replies, we can actually send back, full rich documents, picture messages back to the client so they actually have a picture of the menu. It can have links to any other number of things for them to fill out a waiting list, or so forth. We've also created an outbound messaging center for a business, and some of the use cases I mentioned before might be tying it with your billing system. Send out auto reminders to anybody who has a balance. Tell them what their current balance is and how and when to pay. The queuing is something that we'll get into here into the real live demo. Time of day messages. Ravi, do you want to talk a little bit about the time of day messages and how that's designed and others are using it today?
Sure. As far as the advanced queuing is concerned, there are these options which are available at a queue level where the queue can be kept open or closed based on the business hours. So when a message comes to the queue, the message is queued and presented when the next available agent becomes available for that business hour. Until then, the system keeps them and sends an automated message to the customer that the the offices are currently closed, and they'll be answered as they are presented to the agents the next business hour. So that is the time of the day, and these time of the day messages can be configured on a per queue level basis, which means we have a time zone that can be set for every queue and a custom message that can go along with it. And there is a schedule that goes along with it where the schedule can change or vary based on the time of the day. There could be days where it can be completely open. There could be days when it can be completely closed, or it can be partially open and partially closed. So we provide all those options for configuration. We're just showing you a screenshot there. I'll show you more details as we get into the demo. Can we move on to the next slide?
Yes, I will, and thank you for updating that. One of the things that I will tell you that's powerful about this is that traditionally you've only been having contact centers answer phone calls. Maybe it's for a doctor's office, and they do that after hours or something. Now, with the innovation that we're presenting here, you can literally split the communications into two different forms. You might have one group that can answer all of the SMS messages, and in that case you can have one rep handle 3 or 4 of them at a time compared to a voice contact that can only do really a 1-to-1 ratio. If you're a contact center, which we serve a lot of contact centers in our space, you can now offer an additional layer of service or communications to your clients. And that can be something that can be, 24/7 or just during specific business hours. It really allows for the separation of the communication layers into different groups. It's quite powerful. So SMS opt-in, opt-out, Ravi, why don't you give us a brief rundown on why this is important?
Sure. SMS is a pretty highly regulated industry, as you might already know about this. So it's important for an outbound SMS message to get authorization from the end customer or the subscriber before any marketing information is sent. What we have built in our system is a mechanism specifically for SMS for opting in and opting out of the service. The way it happens is where the customer can send any custom message to us, because most of these messages for opting in, you can say John Hopkins, you can say IPitimi on call, or you can say Telestax webinar. You can have custom messages for opting into the service, which we will allow you to custom based on any regular expressions that are supported in our system. And then you can tag that to either do not call list, which is very similar to the calling function that is available in North America, where once we get the message, we put it into our database, into a list of numbers which are blocked for further communication to the users. And this particular list, we have a REST-based interface for we expose it to our customers where they can download it live once in every 30 seconds, 5 minutes, or whatever the interval is for updating their applications with this whitelist information. And then similarly, there is a subscribe option where the customer can log in and subscribe to a service. And this subscribe service can either remove the user from the not call list or add it to a whitelist, which would allow the messages to come through. Again, we have a REST-based service where we will expose for downloading the reports on the subscribers that have opted in and the type of service they are subscribing to. The other thing that I would also like to mention, just taking it to the next level, is as part of this process, if a subscriber is sending in a subscription message, and if the company needs to provide some more messages before they close out the transaction, we allow that, which means we keep the subscription open on our end. So as the subscription messages are sent to us, we can reply with multiple messages before finally closing it. And this is extremely helpful for those companies that have compliances. And being a service provider, we can now say that we are in compliance with opt-in, opt-out rules, which are very essential for any service provider or for an end customer. Craig?
Thank you, Ravi. All right. The rules-based engine is also another feature that I believe would be best described by our engineer here. This is what is the logic behind taking inbound messages and routing them to the appropriate agent or the appropriate department. Ravi, you want to talk about this particular feature?
Sure. The rules engine is an engine that is designed for both SMS and chat. We have two different messaging products that we offer, as Greg has highlighted. So the rules engine works for both. An example of a rules engine that probably I can explain now on this call is someone says we need help. When the help is needed, you can send an automated response back to the consumer that an agent will be with them shortly. And as soon as that message is played, you can then queue the message and present it to the agent, which is one use case. The other use case is you may have sets of requests that you may need to present, and we can automate each of them in sequence where we can have priority for the messages to be sent before the last action is performed on it. So there could be multiple messages that can be reply only. It can be reply and send to agent and other combinations that can be used with it. But the important thing that I would like to highlight here is we can perform a response to a given request either with a static text message that can be configured on a per rule basis, which can be assigned to a queue, but we also have a REST-based interface that is integrated to this, which will allow us to do an integration to a third-party system. A third-party system can be a chatbot system. A third-party system can be any REST interface that can get the subscriber information and the text and do further parsing on it before providing a response. So these are the advanced logics that we integrated because we've been seeing a lot of customers that have been requesting us to do integration to third-party systems for eliminating manual interactions. So with this change, we can, we now provide an application to an agent, an application or an agent to a queue, to a consumer or a person, or it can be the other way. When the person sends the message, it can come into application, and application can go to another application before the transaction is closed. So we support almost all the regular expressions supported by Java, and those can be configured on the system. Greg?
Thank you very much. All right, we are getting to where we're ready to start going into a live demo. You're going to see 2 or 3 different screens here as we get into this, and we'll talk through it. Obviously, you have an agent client.
As far as the client is concerned, we have 2 main interfaces, as Greg was showing you in his demo. There is a client that we expose where the agents would be getting the screen for answering inbound messages when they are presented to the agent. The second client that we have is a chat. You can integrate the code into, we have a very simple code, maybe 2 lines if it is a specific implementation, or 4 lines depending on the other implementation, where we provide the script to the end customers. They can embed this into their web page, and we have designed a form which is a dynamic form that allows you to log in. I'll go into those details.
This is actually a web chat client, and this is what we were talking about before, what many of you are used to now, going to a web page that says, hi, can I help you with your shopping experience, or how can I help you? The code that he just showed you is a web chat client that an end user might see when they visit their web page, and it actually ties right into the same client that all of the SMS does on the back end.
Those are the 2 clients that we have. So from an agent perspective, when they log in, they're going to see the processor. We just named it as the processor because those are the messages which are presented to the agent. And a supervisor would get the additional functionality required, which is to do dashboards. When they log in, they would be able to see the dashboards, and dashboards are these are the dashboards that we use in our demos. We provide it's a 2-level dashboard. We provide the size of SMS queue, the chat size queue, the wait time, and other details. And you can pick the queue, double-click on them. It takes you to the next level of seeing the agents that are there and their statuses and the messages in the queue. So that is the dashboard. A supervisor would have the ability to log in and monitor the messages in the queue and the agent activity.
So this, Ravi, just to confirm, this is a supervisor view, and these are all of the different queues that you're supervising. Now, we have one client with more than 3,000 numbers in just a single queue. Now, that's only going to show up as only one queue on here, correct?
That will show up as one queue, but when they go into
correct.
provisioning,
And when they log
you
in,
would have the multiple numbers. Correct.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. And then similarly, the supervisors are provided with the ability to review the reports, where the reports are the options where we have multiple filters available for generating the reports, and the data is presented. I'll again get into those. I'm just trying to give you a very high-level overview before going there. And then similarly, for some of the administrators, a tenant could have an administrator. Administrator would be able to configure the users. As I'm showing you here, these are the different types of users. You can designate the roles to them. The administrator will have the ability to configure the queues and define the queues that are there in the system. And there are multiple auto replies and other configurations that can be configured at this level. So these are the different settings that one can apply to a queue and then take it to the next level. We just added few additional parameters, like when the system automatically responds back with an auto reply, you can have an alias for a chat. You don't need to show the queue name or the tenant name. It can be the campaign that you're running. So we just added few functionalities there where the queue can have other functionalities. Chat queue can have other functionalities in addition to SMS. So this is, I would say, at the queue level. And similarly, the one that we talked about, time of the day routing, here is the option that can be configured at the queue level, and the settings can be deployed based on how it is used. The third area that I want to quickly show you is the options where the users can configure the regular expressions required for rules, either for compliance or for providing an agentless responses, or do a third-party integration for providing the responses. The last option which I want to show you is the option for customizing the chat client, where you can just use our provisioning system for uploading a logo. You can have the color. You can change the font color, the options for the message, the background messages for it. You can also customize the welcome screen. You can hide and unhide options required. You can do all sorts of things required for the other client that we just talked about. With that, I'm going to go back to the main demo. And then
while he's showing you how this is provisioned, the top left, you'll notice he just got a picture of a microphone. That really is to demonstrate this is built specifically for, federation and distribution through a cloud marketplace like Telestax. And by using that, it actually allows for another company, another phone company, service provider, or what have you, to brand this product entirely as their own. So that's part of the configuration that can be done as well.
Yes. Thank you, Greg. And I'm just showing you the screen where the logos can be configured per tenant, and that is a place where you can just upload a logo and it provides the information on the branding. The next one, I'm going to get quickly into the demo. I'm going to first give you the demo of the web chat, and then we will get into the SMS. So there are two ways to launch the web chat. There is one where there is an independent pop-up irrespective of the browser, which means customers can browse at the same time, use the pop-up. Or there is an in-browser chat, which means you'll stay within the browser, very similar to Gmail, where you would stay within the browser. You can move the location of the chat and you can start chatting. For the benefit of the demo, I'm just going to give you a demo of the pop-up, because I can show you both queue at the same time, the messages that are sent. So it's very simple. When you log in, it shows the average time to handle. We just hard-coded to a value for our demo. There's a form that can be customized. You provide the details. I'm just going to provide my cell phone details as I'm typing, and then the zip code required. Just hit start, and you get the message. You can provide responses to the message. And then you can also send attachments to all that. There is a timer that is set up in the system. There is an agent timer and a customer timer. If there is an inactivity, if an agent gets timed out, the message is put into the queue. If the customer gets inactive, the message would be closed. As you can see here, the message is giving the timer required, inactivity timer required for the customer for providing a response. If no response is provided, the message is closed and is pulled from all the screens before the agent is freed up to answer the next one. Very similar to this, I'm now going to get into the SMS demo. The SMS, we will provide the SMS message, and it gets distributed to the agent. All right. I'm sending a message as Greg is getting ready to do a test. I'm also sending an SMS. I'm using a Mac client, so it allows me to send message and receive messages. I just sent a response. As you can see, it is received. I can mark this. I can disposition. I can use macros. So if there are company standards that every company has certain standards for composing messages, you can have macros defined, and you can actually edit them before sending responses to the customers. And there is a way to disposition a message. This can be customized again. Based on the customization, the dispositions are entered to the system for tracking it in future. I can mark this complete, and the message is marked, and I get a thank you message being a consumer for using the chat. Greg, are you sending a message?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
You might check the queue to see if somebody else logged in and received it.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. We've got multiple people using it for demos, and I told them not to use my demo. But in any case, I'm just going to give you a demo of this. This is a test. All right. As you can see, I got the message. We also supported multiple languages in this version. I'm using a language here called Telugu. As I can see, I just typed a language and it shows up. If I send a response, it goes away. The difference between SMS and web chat is SMS is designated with an S, web chat is designated with a W. So you've got different ways for an inbound message to come in, and it gets distributed to various agents for getting the response. Very similar to it, I can mark this as complete. All right, I just got a message from Greg. I just sent a response to Greg. And then
I already got an auto response as well that said thank you for contacting. So,
right. I'm sending an image to Greg. All right, so the image is auto compressed because there are rules again for sending the images MMS. So we auto compress it and send it back. Okay, so here are the messages that can be sent and received, which is our messages. Greg has sent a router image, as you can see here. So if a user is providing a support of a router, he can show the ports and also look at the status before providing a response. Greg, do you want to talk about it, the use case?
Yeah, just wanted to talk about the types of applications that this can be relevant, which is, you might be an insurance company out in the field and you can send real-time pictures. Maybe somebody wants a VIN number off of the car. And how often do you spend and how much time, even with errors, do you spend trying to read off numbers and somebody validating it? Now it can be real time and get accurate information with data, as we talked about, that can be saved and used to verify. So all of this is a very relevant piece of how you can communicate with your customers more effectively. And just the type of user experience when you send something back to them. is powerful. I would bet that a large majority of the people who are listening to this presentation right now have already had some form of text communication with somebody else. I'll call you back. I'll be there in a minute. Or, hey, did you get such and such? Question mark. That is the type of communication that it takes place without you even knowing. Imagine being able to go into an important meeting, send a text message to your vendor's main contact number and say, I need the status on this right away because my boss is going to ask. And while you're sitting there under the table, you might get your response. That's what this empowers you as a business and consumers to do.
Thank you, Greg. I'm quickly going to get into the reporting. I want to show you how this works. For the benefit of time, just picking up 2 dates for generating the reports. And the report is generated. It's lots of information. There are 2 ways to download the reports, or rather 3 ways now. One is you can download it. We can visually see before downloading it either as a CSV or an Excel. There is a third option that we are currently testing, which is there is a REST-based interface that we will be exposing for constantly downloading these messages. There are about 4 or 5 canned reports that we are planning to include as part of the REST-based interface, which can have average times to handle to other details to every message that comes into the system. So let me just explain what is there in the reports. There are system-generated messages, which are the automated responses that you saw, which are marked as system. Instead of an agent ID, it shows as system. If an agent responds back, every agent, whether it is a presented agent or a bounced agent, all that information is captured into the system. The other important thing that I want to quickly highlight at a very high level is we show the functionality as SMS, or it can be a chat. So I'm sure chat is somewhere at the bottom. So that's how it designates a type of message that is sent to the user. The other one that is listed here is the status. We provide delivery confirmation on every message that is sent. Again, it depends on the carrier, but most of the carriers provide it. On this particular report, as you can see, if the message is sent, it shows whether the message is delivered or not. And if the message is handled by our system, it shows that it is stuck in a particular state or staying or left in a particular state before it moves on to the next state. So the first message here I'm highlighting is still in rules engine because it is still not closed. There are still messages that are being exchanged when I generated the report. The next message is a message where we provided delivery confirmation. There are 7 different codes in North America. We provide all those delivery confirmation codes to the customer. Similarly, we have shown the dashboard and how it works. Greg, do you want to talk about anything else here?
Yes, reporting is a big part of any communication with a company. And as you see here, we didn't get into some of the specifics, which we can if anyone wants to consult with us afterwards. But every conversation or every message that's sent has its own unique message ID, and then they're combined into a conversation ID. A conversation ID is going to literally sort by every communication that was in that particular conversation. And with that, you'll be able to see what the customer said, what was an auto response from the system, and if it was delivered or not, what the agent said and which agents were working with them. And in many cases, you might have multiple agents answering a specific request from a customer, maybe because of time or sensitivity or escalations. And so all of that data, again, with the integrations that can be done here, even export or import into your CRM systems, not only do you have all of your email communications, you've got contact call records, call recordings, you have any and all chat communications all saved into one 360-degree view of your customer. Using that data will literally enhance every aspect. One key area that this reporting is important is we have one contract with the National Teen Bullying Hotline. So let's talk about a use case. I mean, I have teenagers, and if any of you do, I call them on the phone and they instantly reject and text me, what do you want? That is a classic example of today's generation. How many of those teens do you think would call in to report bullying on a toll-free number by just calling up the phone? I mean, that's probably pretty difficult for many of them. However, when you have a text offering, imagine the number of victim requests or victim reports that have just skyrocketed through just the change in medium into how people can communicate. It's absolutely phenomenal. And because it's such a sensitive type of an issue, that's why we have these pullback timers that we've built and Robbie showed you, so that if another agent doesn't get to them quickly enough, it can be sent to somebody else right away to continue that communication of support and mentoring to help them through a difficult situation. It also is important for compliance and liability as well, as you can imagine, to see any and all communication in the reports that I just showed you. When was it delivered? Was it delivered? Maybe the phone was off. I mean, all of the different 7 messages, delivery confirmation codes that the carriers deliver, we present to you. And that's part of real power and harnessing that data in everything that you're doing.
Thanks, Greg. At this point, I just want to quickly highlight whatever we have shown you is an inbound. We also have tools and options for doing outbound. I just want to quickly highlight an agent can initiate a compose message to initiate a conversation with the caller, with the customer. We have power notifications where we can upload Excel spreadsheets. There are 2 types of Excel spreadsheets that we provide to our customers. The numbers can be listed. The customer's numbers can be listed. The message can be composed. We also provide macro support within the Excel spreadsheet where you could have standard messages written and substitute them with other fields required to upload it to the system. And then third, we have the API where we have a couple of customers that are heavy hitters of our system that use APIs for monitoring and managing the system. So we provide those to our customers. Greg.
Great. Well, I think that there's a lot more that we would love to show you and tell you about this. But as things go, we want to be sensitive to all of your time for attending, and we also want to open up the ability for some of you to answer some questions. So why don't we go back to the presentation and let's wrap up some of these final items here. Let's see. All right. So,
thank you so much.
One of the things that, yeah,
for doing for you and Robbie, very, very interesting. Just wanted to spend a couple of minutes about ResCom 1 and the ResCom 1 marketplace. It's really changing the way real-time communications are developed and delivered. And quite frankly, it's fast becoming the platform of choice for rapidly building enterprise-class real-time messaging, voice, and video applications. For me, I think one of the interesting things about, in terms of deployment, really is the fact that the platform is scalable, it's highly available, and frankly, it's the only RTC platform that supports cloud, on-premise, and hybrid deployment configurations so that you can really tailor it to fit your needs. The ResCom 1 marketplace, I think of this as inviting you to imagine being a service provider that can deliver the best CPaaS offering in the market in record time. And then I invite you to imagine having an ever-growing marketplace portfolio of revenue-generating apps that are pre-integrated and drive value over and above the transport revenue, and even if you aren't a wireless carrier. The ResCom 1 marketplace allows you to do just that, and we are very pleased to have IPitimi as part of the ResCom 1 marketplace. Now with that, I'd like to open it up for some questions. We already have some questions in the queue, and I'd like to get to those first, if that is okay with everyone. One of the first questions that was asked was, is this product doing language translation?
That's a great question. This is Greg here. Did you want to answer that, Robbie? Go ahead.
No. Yeah. So when the customer talks about a language translation, you're expecting a message to be presented in a language and then get converted to another language? Is that the question? Or supporting multiple languages where agents would talk the same language as the originator. But in any case, I'll answer the question. We don't have a translating option built into our system. The agents as well as the customer would use the same language for communication. And when we support any Unicode language that exists for the agent answers.
Correct. We do have the the text that can be sent or received in any language, as well as the macros can be, for auto response can be in any language or native language. You can even have rules that respond to or promote conversations to agents based off of detected language. But as for the translation, that's where I think the real power of maybe if you have your own app or do something with the Telestax, taking all of it, you could easily blend in some of these features. Another question that I actually see here is can it incorporate text to audio conversion? Again, similarly on the client side, there's absolutely every capability to incorporate that. We don't have it currently or native into our application, but you can see how using these open APIs, you could incorporate a couple of other elements to create that type of a solution. This is really a ready-to-go enterprise solution. But if you look at the tool set and the toolbox that comes by leveraging something like the RESTCOM One Marketplace and then building something else, the sky is the limit on what you want to create or deliver on some of those. Maria?
Yeah, that's really great. Thank you. We do have another question that's asking about how attendees can get a trial account of IPitimi that runs on RESTCOM. Either Ravi or Greg.
Go ahead, Ravi. We can have them just send a request. Yeah.
Yeah, we can just have them send in a request. There is a process that we have put in place for RESTCOM. We just have to follow the process for requesting for demo, and we would automatically get a request for adding the user to the system on our end as well as RESTCOM for getting the access. The specifics can be addressed to, I think most of them at Telestax would be able to answer that question. Or if the request is sent directly to us, we'll work with Telestax for getting the access.
And the best way to probably do that is to send it to a sales email, which is sales, S-A-L-E-S, at IPitimi.com. That's IPITIMI.com. Again, our spelling is a little unique. It's all I's and P's, but sales at IPitimi.com. Make sure that you put in the request that you want something to integrate with the Telestax, because that's that gives you the full power of all of the other features that you can build upon it. And we should be able to even enable some of your existing numbers that you already have through your Telestax or RESTCOM marketplace.
Yeah, there was another question that came in around using other messaging services, providers using part of IPitimi to complement their own offering through the marketplace. And Ravi, you answered like which ones. Is there something that you can answer to that question now?
What was the question? I apologize.
Sure, no problem. The question was, can another messaging service provider use parts of IPitimi offering to complement their own offerings through the marketplace?
It requires the business.
I have this, Ravi. If you, yeah,
sure, go ahead.
I think what they're asking about is the messaging. The short answer is absolutely yes. This was built for other messaging service providers to use. That's part of the architecture and the way that it was designed. When we looked at this, and that's why we have partnered with Telestax and the RESTCOM One Marketplace. Number one, it allows us to utilize and leverage our application, but pull in and draw from all of the other features or products that are in the RESTCOM Marketplace, some that I mentioned earlier, to enable other products. But it's in that marketplace for other messaging providers. Messaging providers would use the Telestax product and they would actually be able to add this to their offering. So that it's completely branded and white labeled as their own. That's exactly how this was designed, and that's frankly the core purpose of what the RESCOM One Marketplace is. It's to empower other service providers.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Greg. With that, I'd like to see if there are any more questions coming from the audience. And it doesn't look like it. So I'm going to click over. So you had mentioned earlier, Greg, to contact IPitimi at sales@ipitimi.com. If anyone has any questions, can they also call or can they text?
They sure can. They can call and they can text.
Okay, that's perfect. So the numbers are up on the screen, so they can call, you can text. Shoot an email to sales@ipitimi.com. And if you're interested in learning more about the RESCOM One Marketplace, please feel free to visit the Telestax website at the URL that you see on your screen. I do want to thank everyone for joining us today, and especially thank both Greg and Ravi. We are truly a global team today, so I want to thank both of you for taking the time to join us. Join us next month for our ongoing series. And with that, I will wish everyone goodbye.